I'll call the March 19th Tolland Town Council meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. And I'll turn it over to our town manager to go over the proposed FY 2025-26 budget.
All right, thank you, Chair. And thank you to my staff, my finance director, and the rest of my staff that helped prepare the budget that I submitted. And thank you to my directors and staff that are here tonight to see the presentation and assist council with any questions that they might have. First, we presented the budget for 2025-2026 on March 2nd. I submitted my proposal. There's 3 meetings coming up in the next couple of days to present this budget in its entirety to town council with directors present to answer any questions. Tonight's presentation is a general overview, which I have our finance department here to help assist with any questions. Then we're going to cover planning and development, buildings, DPW, and solid waste. Thursday is the finance department, revenue, the assessors. Well, I'll pause on the assessors. That'll be an opportunity for us to discuss in depth what I do not cover tonight in regards to the revaluation and any questions that anyone has on that. He will be thoroughly prepared, is thoroughly prepared to answer any questions. It's been quite a process for our town, but he'll be here tomorrow night to handle that at that meeting. The town clerk's budget, public safety budget, town manager's office budget, registrars, and probate. Those are all on Thursday. On Monday, the March 24th, 7 p.m., we will cover law enforcement, human services, senior center, library, recreation, and the Board of Education. Dr. Willett will be here to assist with any questions that you might have in that. This budget that I'm going to present is a moving target. And as you know, there are fluctuations and changes throughout the budget process, and we anticipate changes already in regards to this. On April 1st, there'll be a public hearing in regards to this budget, and then April 3rd is the town council discussion. Obviously, the elephant in the room, the revaluations, a concern to everyone. It has been an extraordinary year by all accounts, according to our assessor, according to all the municipal groups that we belong to around the state. It has been an extraordinary year from COVID of 2020 to 2025 where we are now. There has been extreme changes in real estate and real estate values. I want to make it clear, the revaluation process is not our decision to do. That is a state law. We are mandated to do it. We do not want to do it. We have to do it. I can tell you we will do it again in 2030. We are budgeting to do it again in 2030. Again, the revaluation process is not the decision of the town manager, town staff, or town council. This is a requirement of state law, and we are going to have to do it again in 2030. Our fiscal department, who conducted the reval through our assessor, exactly follows professional industry standards for this process. That will be clear if you have any questions regarding how that process is on Wednesday. Our property values went up. That is a good thing. Our mill rate is going to go down. That is also a good thing. The two together will make our town even more attractive. Our property values, when you consider from 2020 to where they are now, went up a lot, obviously, and around 50%. Home and real estate went up roughly just under 50%. It has been an extremely different market from what it was in 2020, real estate market. As a resident, myself, the big question I ask is if our budget, if this budget that I'm proposing is increasing by 3%, why aren't my taxes just going up 3%? Why are they going up so much more than our budget? Our budget, like any other year, is in range of what a typical year would bring with inflation, with prices of everything, supply costs, everything has gone up. The 3% is fairly modest, all things considered. But why are our taxes going up so much more? And that's the question that I have. So we pay for our budget. We pay for everything, all these town services and education through revenue that we raise, mostly taxes. Those 2 sources of taxes are houses, basically, in layman's terms, and the other source is commercial and industrial taxes. During this reval, the houses went up in disproportionate value to commercial and industrial. So the houses, the homeowners, are taking a bigger role in paying for the town budget than they have in previous years. They rose disproportionately when compared to the businesses. Other factors, every house since 2020 that had a crumbling foundation and now has been repaired and made better in almost every case is now fully valued on our list. those went up. The veterans exemptions that came to us as a surprise with no discussion from the state on how to make us whole or how to account for that loss for the veterans section, and the increased use of our ordinance 60 as well has led to the increase in taxes. So the disproportionate real estate to commercial, the veterans exemption, the crumbling foundations, all coming back over in the 5 years, and the increase in ordinance 60 consistently over the last few years have all added up to the cost, the increased cost. There's other factors. We'll get into that as we go. Our neighbors next door, Coventry, had a reval this year as well. Ellington is next year. Coventry's eval, their average home price went up 58%, and they're seeing a much more increase than we are here in the town of Tolland. It's a good thing that property values go up, but if you don't plan on selling your home, that doesn't really go very far into assuaging the pain of having to pay more taxes this year. So we understand that it's painful. If I didn't say it before, let me say it again. This is not something the town wanted to do. We had to do it by state law as directed by state law to do this revaluation again, and it will come again in 2030. This is a balanced budget that I'm going to present. We maintain our fund balances and reserves as best we can, and that goes to help us with our AAA rating. We look to enhance programs modestly when we can, when finances are available, and we invest capital. We invest in capital and life cycle replacement projects. When we do this, we consult with our advisors and our capital. We presented our capital plan in December, and we consult with our debt with Barry Benavi, our advisor and consultant, in regards to how we plan out our debt.
Okay.
Go ahead, so let me try to get the presentation up.
Yep.
What do I need to do here?
Just share the screen. That's a different.
We're good.
Yeah, because it's powerful, so you have to drive. Do you want me to drive?
Yeah, here we go.
Please.
Also push the button in the lower right next to the Zoom card. Light screen.
Hit the mouse.
You know what you're doing, Dave?
I can give you one too.
Yes. Thank you. All right, sorry about that. I think we're in a good spot now. For fiscal year 2026, general fund revenue is expected to be $65,596,488. The expenditure is expected to be same $65,596,488. Compared to fiscal year 2025, the adopted budget has increased. My proposed adopted budget is an increase of 3.03%. The town operating budget increases by 2.80% or $392,226. The Board of Education operations budget, I propose increasing their budget 2.99% or 1.3 million roughly more than last year. Our capital improvements plan has risen 57.08% or $226,829. This is going to be offset with a proposed one-time expense to be offset by the unassigned fund balance. Our finance director can explain that if you have questions later. The proposed mill rate of 28.26 reflects a decrease of 25.18% or 9.51 mills from fiscal year 2025's adopted mill rate of 37.77 due to the reval conducted on October 1st. The proposed budget also includes our capital improvement plan that we presented in December. So looking at this column, if you can see it, the fourth column over is look at the dollar amounts there. You can see that there is an increase in $1.7 million to our budget. That is $392,000 is from the town and $1.3 million is from the Board of Education. If you look at some other things, these state and federal grants roughly increasing by 3.29%. That includes a motor vehicle grant, but we're not going to have that next year. We do believe we do have it this year. License permit and fees is going to go up $115,000. And that is due to the cannabis and the trend in the building department and fees that we're taking in there. However, the clerk's office is we project to go down $22,000. Again, that is based on the services and the trends in the clerk's office. Our investments, we look to increase by about 22% or just under $150,000. Going down, you look at our education grants. Right now, we have it, we believe, to get just about $300,000 less than we got last year. Although we do anticipate and believe that we might get that next year, and we will look to see how that'll affect our budget. But our state representative is fairly confident that we are going to get it. And again, as I mentioned before, to offset the capital plan, $227,000 to help stabilize the increase in capital. Looking at expenditures, as I said before, the expenditures for the town is up $392,000, $1.3 million for the Board of Ed, capital improvements up $226,000, and our debt service, due to good planning, is going to remain flat. Okay, so 2026 budget revenues. Some of the revenues are fixed and some are decided right here at council. You know, our property taxes are where they're going to be. So some we can have a say in, and others we don't. The proposed budget revenues for fiscal year 2026 reflect an increase, as I said, 3.03%, totaling just over to 1.9 million when compared to the adopted budget from last year. The primary source of revenue, where we're going to make up for this 1.9 million, is property taxes, which property taxes constitutes 80.4, just over 80% of our overall revenue. The second largest source is education grants, which is around 13%. The governor's proposed budget for the town of Tolland decreased by $248,816 compared to last year. We will not know until the summer what is the total amount of money that we are getting from the state. If you look at that chart there, it's a list of many grants that we have here in the town. Adult education, ECS, Dr. Willett can explain when he's here next week. Anything to do with LoSIP, Lipta can do. The pilot is basically our state property in town. Director Lappin's here tonight, DPW, he can explain the TAR aid grant. If you have any questions, Lipta can talk about the municipal grants in aid, and then the motor vehicle reimbursements and supplemental revenue sharing if you have any questions. These are our grants. Many are flat. Again, we heavily rely on the state and the $300K from the ECS. We are currently not counting that 300 as revenue because we don't know we're going to get it, but we can discuss that and have it applied to revenue. Moving on. Okay, so how is the mill rate impacted by the appropriations that we decide to apply here. The proposed mill rate is 28.26. The total revenue is to be raised by taxation is just over 52 million. The top line appropriations, you can propose appropriations. The town again, just over 14 million. Education, just over 45 million, with 5 million in change going to debt, and just over 600,000 going to capital improvements for a total of 65 million. If you go down to the very bottom line on this, it looks at our mill rate specifically. All the way right, you see is our mill rate 28.26. You can see where the contributions or where each department contributes to the mill rate. So of the mill rate of 28.26, 5.6 is the town, 19.6 is education, 2.9 is debt, and just 0.05 is the capital improvement. Okay. Use of fund balance and municipal tax stabilization fund. The use of unassigned fund balance is higher by 227,000 when compared to last year. Last year, the 2025, a total of 527,000. To offset this, we're going to do a one-time CIP expenditure. 300,000, the max allowed contribution. We also are using a 300,000 contribution, $300,000 contribution from the municipal tax stabilization fund. That's the maximum that we are allowed. We can't spend another penny more out of the tax stabilization fund. Other non-tax revenues, these are other places that we get money. Obviously, again, taxes is where most of our stuff, our revenue comes from, but we also have others. Non-education and federal grants, disability grants, veterans, town preservation, you can see pretty much stay the same. But the state municipal grant, we might not have next year, or it could be $1 million less. Licenses, permits, and fees. We usually collect about $115,000. This is thanks to our buildings department largely, and also the increase in cannabis sales taxes. That, however, is defined in how we can spend it. You will see some of that coming up as we present the budget over the next few days. Charges for current services, we're down 22,000. Again, this is based on trends out of the clerk's office. So of this, about $148,000 or just over that are some of the other non-tax revenues that we have coming in. Okay. This proposed budget expenditure, again, is I'm proposing 3.03 increase or 1.9 million compared to last year's budget. The town operating budget, again, $14 million or an increase of 392,000. So in 2025 or 2024-25, we were just over 14 million. So $14,029,408. This proposed budget has us at $14,421,634 for an increase of 2.8%. Board of Education, this year I have it proposed at $45,174,144, an increase over last year's amount, which was $43,862,648. That's an increase of 1.3 million, just over that, or an increase of 2.99. It's a total of 65.6 million, an increase of 1.9 million. Again, that's how we arrived at the 3.03% increase. This chart is a breakdown of town increases. Dr. Will will be in next week to get more defined if you have any questions on the Board of Ed, but this is the town increases here. Leading to the increase in town most prevalently are two things. One, payroll, council approved payroll, both contractual and planned, and then health employees, the health insurance for our employees, or E-CHIP, that is up 139,000. Mike Wilkinson's here if you have any questions about that amount. $29,000 transfer out is another big one on this list. The $29,000 transfer out is us planning for, as in case I didn't mention it, the revaluation that we're going to have to do in 2030. It is a different reval than we are doing now. This is an actual, every piece of property has to be visited. We will likely hire a company to do that, as we do not have the staff to conduct that type of revaluation that is required by Connecticut state law. So in order to accommodate that cost, we are budgeting out $29,000 over the next 5 years so that we can pay for it when the next reval comes.
Is that a per year estimate?
Do we want to answer questions as we go or wait till the end, Chair?
If we could do it by section, so when you're complete with your introduction, we could go
Yep.
over for questions.
It's 29 every year for the total.
Thank
This is gonna be the same every year. Okay, so the town manager's proposed budget for fiscal year 25-26 for the Board of Education is just over 45 million, again, 2.99. On February 12th, 2025, the Board of Education presented its budget to us. The Board of Ed presented two separate budgets. The first budget was for an 11.1% increase, or $48,737,071. The second budget was for a 7.34 increase, or $47,082,385. On the 24th, Dr. Willett will be here for any questions in regards to that. Key budget dates, I mentioned the next, the tomorrow night and Monday night for these presentations and the individual departments following this general overview of the budget. The 16th and 17th, there'll be annual budget presentations, one here in council and one at the senior center. I believe the chair will do the one in council, and I will likely do, if I can't talk him into it, do the one at the senior center as well. And then May 6th is the annual budget referendum. Should that pass on May 13th, will be the town council. The town council will establish a mill rate. So that's a major section. Happy to stop and pause now if you'd like. And if I can answer hers, the 29,000 is a total, but times 5 is what we believe the total cost to be, so we're dividing it up equally.
That's why I assumed, but thank you.
I'll open it up to other counselors as well. Just a reminder, this is an overview, so if you got a specific question, there's a very good chance that we will talk about it again, so.
Is one of these a public hearing? I thought I saw that in.
Yeah, there's a public hearing, I mentioned, hold on.
And I wasn't sure, because I know in the schedule that we got mailed to us, I thought.
Yep, April 1st is the public hearing on the budget.
Thank you.
And then on April 3rd, you, council, have the difficult job of discussing what you want to send a referendum.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Okay. Yeah.
So I know you mentioned the ECS, you talked to the state representative. I don't know which one either, keep you accurate, but what does he or she say with the likelihood of getting that?
Very well. You've heard me say in the past that I don't like to be a riverboat gambler on these types of things. Her confidence in that we were gonna get that 300,000, I would define as very strong, especially when compared to previous years. I'm inclined to take her at her word. I can apply that 300,000 to our revenue. That will lower the taxes and the mill rate by 300,000 just getting out of the gate. I don't want to make that decision on my own. I would want council to direct me to do that, as again, it's a gamble. If we don't get it, and I made that decision on my own, that would not look favorably upon my resume when I have to look for employment elsewhere. So that's why I want council to make that decision. Yeah or no, and you can, at any point, when you guys have your council deliberations, you can decide, but think about it until then.
Yeah.
And we'll get more information. Let's try to make that decision as late as possible as we get more and more information in.
Okay, yeah, I have a couple of ideas, but anyways, I'm gonna just move on real quick, so that 226,829 for capital improvements, is that a must? Is that the big chunk as well?
Yes, but remember, that's planned out in debt, and in adjustments made to the capital improvement plan have very little impact.
But this is an additional out of the general fund, no, another balance, it's
The
additional.
extra,
Yeah, 200.
not all of it is a must. You know, there are things that are must in there, you know, like the sewer fees and such like that, but no, not all of it is a must. But again, we have a 5-year plan that we kind of have that debt planned out. We got some big stuff down the road as well. So we're trying to best, with the advice of our consultants, try to best shoehorn that in. We can make adjustments, but again, understanding adjusting the capital budget does not have a huge impact on the mill rate, because it's planned out debt over a long period of time.
Okay, and I know that health insurance is always a big topic. I mean, is there any way we can be more worded? Is there any wiggle room to?
The riverboat gambler, take a little more risk.
Yeah.
It's certainly open for discussion. Mike Wilkinson will be here to discuss that. Again, we have a consultant, we have advisors. Dr. Willett is the chair of E-Chip. He'd be a good person to just consult with that as well.
On Monday, sure. And then I think my last question is, I know legal services have gone up, what'd you say, 10,000? I'm not sure, but is that over, asking for that? That's a big jump.
Is that legal? You said like as in
Legal, I think the legal services went up.
Yes. We have a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of things in court right now. While we are discussing the sidewalks on the green, and that is in litigation, we are not paying for that.
Okay.
That is being covered. However, we have some other, the wells, the contaminated wells is expensive. We're still dealing with some zoning issues, as well. The actuals are way over that. So, that's why we plotted them to where they could be.
Thanks. Right, I think that's all I have. Now you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just add quickly, I just looked at the legal budget earlier today as well, because I had a similar thought to it, but I did see like that actuals line is
Yes.
all over the place,
Yes.
and it's usually higher than what we're budgeting, so
Okay.
just something to think
Think
about.
about it. Okay.
Yeah. Councilor Moran, I can't see, oh, you do have your hand raised, okay. Councilor Moran, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just one quick question. With what we're budgeting or projecting for education money, I know the legislature recently passed like a $40 additional million for special education funding. I think that's right now budgeted for fiscal year 27. But is it factored in at all? Is it something that we can consider that the legislature may add in for fiscal year 26? What impact does that, if anything, have on what we're projecting?
So in those regards, I would look to CCM and cost and for those types of recommendations. It is, I would love to. It's too early. I wouldn't even know where to begin on that, Chris.
Okay, so I think just something to keep in mind as we go through the process.
Yep.
Thanks.
Any other questions from councilor? Just reminding you, you probably will have a chance to ask a question in the other section.
We're gonna go over in another session, the general fund budget summary, or is that part of?
Like the general government fund or?
Well, no, it's this, on page 50, where we have the general fund budget summary, and there's discussions about the revenue that's coming in versus the less numbers that are listed on there. I'm just,
So you do have,
we're gonna cover that in detail.
we do have a section that's focused on revenue, I think it's tomorrow, where we can get in depth with that.
Okay.
So,
I can wait till tomorrow.
yeah,
If you could send an email with the questions or after, if you want to meet with us, and then we'll know what we can actually prepare for it if you'd like to as well.
It's kind of general questions that.
Okay,
typically have.
all right.
I want to know more about the veteran fund or the federal.
The impact?
Reduction, you know, what's
Yep.
the cause of that, how's the calculation?
Yep.
As well as, I always look at the senior tax relief program and I compare to actuals and we're going up $1.5 million. It seems like, again, it always seems like we shoot a really high number out there that never comes to fruition as a deduction of our net revenue, so I just question why that's so high.
Jason will be here for that.
Okay.
Tomorrow night.
That's a gross number, it's not like a tax, when I say gross, because we're talking like $1 billion in assessed value here, so really we're reducing that.
Right.
That gross number, so the true dollar impact is far, far less.
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
but we can talk more about that tomorrow and get some explanation about those kind of things.
yeah, I think with the right people will be on.
Yeah.
Yep. Last call questions. All right, I'll have, go on to planning and community development, item B.
All right, great.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Give me 1 second. Okay, planning and development. And as we move through, I have several directors here. David Cochran from planning and development, Jim Paquin from permits, and Director Lappin for DPW and some of his staff as well. Let's start off with the zoning board of appeals. This is a small one. Again, Dave's here if you need it. The zoning board of appeals is in our budget book, pages 133 and 130 through 135 of my proposed budget for the details on the zoning board of appeals. The proposed amount for them, I have at $3,620. The commission's budget has decreased, or I'm proposing a decrease of $330 compared to last year's adopted budget due to significant reductions in advertising expenses. Basically, the major service for them is process variance applications and ensure compliance with legal requirements, review zoning regulations and efficiencies. But we are required by the state of Connecticut, the ZBA is required by statute to provide a mechanism for issuing variances, and commission members are required to complete mandatory training yearly. Some of the costs of that in that budget is the training. Moving on to public health services. This is our Eastern Highland Health District. In the town of Tolland, we do not have our own health department like a big city would have their own health department. So what we do is there is a regional health service that we pay them a yearly fee to use them as our health department. They have absolutely stepped it up over the last couple of years. I'll get into that in a minute. The cost of their services has risen by $3,202 for a total of $89,630. So just under $90K. We rely on them for many services here, and that is to continue work to address and mitigate the contaminated wells, review and inspect construction projects, and we work with local businesses to ensure they are operating by public health code and the state of Connecticut. They also help us with our town events, food and restaurant inspections, commercial septic. Again, they really stepped up in regards to the electric blue when we were having problems with their sewing and again with the contaminated wells and working with the state Department of Health in more of a they've done a bunch of testing for us. They're also trying to repair or at least come up with some legislation so that there are boundaries around when and how you can get a water softener in your house, which is largely contaminating the wells in our town as a result of water softeners. Major services, I believe I covered that, so let's move on to planning and zoning services. That is page 139 through 141 in your budget book. The budget for planning and zoning services is $218,873. That's an overall budget increase by $4,000 compared to fiscal year 2025, largely due to planned and approved negotiated salary increases. The actuals, if you look, are lower based on attrition that we tried or the attrition that we've had over the past couple of years. We are, however, currently staffed at 100%. Some of the major services provided by this department, as there's been they've really done a wonderful job in changing the culture and customer service approach over the last 5 to 10 years. They provide technical and administrative assistance to 5 boards and commissions and other town departments. They respond to all customer inquiries and complaints, and they identify opportunities to encourage development. There are statutory requirements to amend zoning regulations to implement recommendations from the POCD, that's the Plan of Conservation and Development, and modifications of state statutes. POCD is required for so many different things to include when we apply for grants. Often state grants, we often have to have a POCD in place in order to get those grants, and those are some of the bigger grants we have. Our POCD lasts about 10 years. We are due to do it again to 10 years, Dave?
10 years.
And we're due again to have it in 2029. Dave's already started some of the preliminary process of that. That is basically the strategic plan that we have here for the town of Tolland. They also process zoning permit applications and serves as the town zoning enforcement officers and wetland agents. While we're on wetlands, our Inland Wetlands Commission, I'm proposing a budget of just over $3,700. That is flat from last year. The statutory requirements for our wetlands, the Wetlands Commission is required by state statute to enforce wetlands regulations. So we have to have a Wetlands Commission, and they do inlands and wetlands stuff. Moving on to Planning and Zoning Commission, BZC. We rely very heavily on the PCC. They do a fantastic job. If you attend any of their meetings, they are all very committed and do a great job in understanding and moving things along. I'm proposing a budget of $8,900. That remains unchanged from last year's budget. The main fees that go there are for consultant, clerk, advertising, and training. Major services provided by the PCC is they update our zoning regulations to implement zoning related recommendations of the POCD, including amendments to be more business friendly. They've done an outstanding job with that. They support a variety of housing options and price points in Tolland and modify regulations as necessary to balance the desire for development with the needs of the community. They streamline the application process and department operations to improve customer service and encourage development. Our statutory requirements, we're required to have to implement a 2024 affordable housing plan. Again, the POCD, and they are required to approve special permits, site plans, and 824 referrals. Commission members complete state mandated training yearly. Again, that's a part of the built-in budget. The Conservation Commission, what a wonderful job they do with the Conservation Corps together. The Conservation Commission is in your budget book, pages 148 through 150. The Conservation Commission budget is increased by $3,500. It would have remained flat. However, the Conservation Commission wants to run a program to help pick up litter around town to include the nip bottles. I'm going to include $3,500. The $3,500 increase will be entirely covered by the cannabis revenue that we have, and we'll see how the program goes. That was at the request of Bob Rubino, and it'll be covered. It'll be covered under the again, the cannabis revenue that we're anticipating getting. The main thing, again, you can see the main things they do is they're going to try to do some more roadside cleanup. I can show a couple of places I know where they are. Reserve open space with a focus on acquisitions that are meaningful and advance a specific purpose. Case in point, the Tolland Marsh that we were very close to purchasing through a state grant that we had. They publicize Tolland's conservation areas and activities, update conservation area signage. They are statutorily mandated to do dam inspection and maintenance. We also have the Conservation Corps attached to them that do so much work on our trails and conservation areas. So very thankful for them. Budget's flat except for the $3,500 again by cannabis. Moving on. The Agricultural Commission, it's in your budget book, page 151 through 153. They have become more and more active in our town, and not just working with the farmers, but they also run the farmers market for the most part. We started it in 2022. We could not be happier with how it's going. It's been great on our town green. The budget of $1,500 remains flat. However, I may look into, again, cannabis money going to them if need be to help improve the farmers market. Again, they promote local farms and products. They do at the Tolland Green Market, encourage agritourism, and continue to monitor compliance with lease terms for our town-owned properties that we lease to farmers. Campbell's Farm, for example. If you go back to the Agricultural Commission, no, that's not theirs. One of the years we bought a roof for one of the farms, and it was quite a spike in the budget, but that's going to be somewhere else, I believe, in here. Moving on to engineering. Proposed budget of $71,380. The engineering service budget slightly increased by $46 as compared to last year, so it's basically flat. The engineers budget you can find in page 180 and 182 of the budget book, proposed budget. We have made a change in our engineering over the last few years, and we have shifted to using two. It doesn't mean we have the same amount of money budgeted, but we're using a different engineer, which we believe we will see some additional work to be done at a lower rate, and that is through Cardinal and Russo, two local engineers that we're so far very, very happy with when compared to previous experiences. We have major projects on the horizon to include sidewalks on the green, sidewalks connecting the green to our business district, a new building at Crandall's, a new state required animal shelter, and other bridge, culvert and bridge repairs in town. So that we have a lot of engineering issues on our plate. They review land use applications for proposed developments. The price that they charge to do that is already lower than what the previous engineer charged. And they review inspection and construction projects and ensure compliance with statewide MS4 stormwater standards. That's going to wrap up Mr. Corcoran here. If anyone has any questions before I jump to the next one for Dave in regards to his department.
Building inspection.
I'm going to jump to Mr. Paquin for that.
Okay. Just open it up for questions for Mr. Corcoran.
said all that so fast, but I think I only have one question there already answered it, so I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else had that couple, but?
Good.
So on the planning and zoning budget, I think you had mentioned that it was going up, or you were expected to use all the money because, it's fully staffed now and it wasn't.
Let me get back to you here, hold on.
Okay. I'll just look into it.
Go ahead. That is the planning, not the commission, the actual planning and zoning.
Yeah, like planning and zoning department.
Okay.
$218,000.
Gotcha. Yes, we plan on being staffed at 100%.
Okay. So I was just curious, because looking in the budget book, it shows you had 3 positions filled in 2023, 2024, which is the same as this year. But you were still lower, like you still didn't hit your budgeted amounts of $13,000. So I'm just curious, is there?
Go ahead, Dave.
So the way this operated, I would say for the period from 2022 to 2024 is we had a executive secretary and the director. We were filling the assistant planner position with a consultant who charged a flat rate, which was significantly less than the budgeted amount for the assistant planner. What we've done since is we've eliminated the executive secretary position, which we did last year. We moved the executive secretary up into the assistant planner role, and we retained the consultant. So before there was that, I guess, difference in price between the assistant planner and the consultant, which is now, I guess, absorbed.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we're fully executing the budget now, and the consultant is still cheaper than an executive secretary. So
Okay.
Yep.
When did that happen again? Sorry.
that happened last budget year,
Okay.
or I guess this budget year that we're in right now.
Okay. Like last calendar year.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. The other question I had was the town engineer budget. I know you've mentioned there's more projects going on. I think the ones you mentioned were ones I was familiar with, but it's still like almost double what we're actually spending. So I just wanted to dig into that a little bit more, try to understand why you think we're gonna spend 70,000 this year versus like 35 we usually do.
Yep, so some of that, my understanding is just some of it has to do with potential unknown emergency expenditures that may require significant engineering immediately, a bridge fails, something like that. I believe in the past, the town has used that fund towards the end of the budget year to fund discretionary items like a extra bulky waste pickup, correct me if I'm wrong. And that's kind of where that's gone. Yeah.
I can dig in and find out from when you guys have, I could probably get that at the beginning for tomorrow night and get more clarity on that. I believe there's a definitive answer because I had to ask that same question.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that, Brian.
Dave, you could dig into that.
Okay. That's all I have for now. Yep, Councilman.
And to kind of piggyback off of Jacob, I know kind of know what's holding us up with the sidewalks, but as far as the building at Crandall's and the animal shelter, is that, do we know what fiscal year that's projected to be 26 or?
First will be the Crandalls. I believe it's in 2 years. It's in the capital plan. And then the animal shelter is, I believe, 4 years or 5 years out. We have to have it done by a certain time to meet state standards. We're gonna have to close that building.
That's gonna be impacted this year for our budget.
That's what?
That money that we're putting aside for that's gonna be affecting this year's budget.
It's in our debt plan moving out. Technically, we're only going to debt for what we're buying, so year one, isn't it? So we can move it out. If you don't want, you wanna push those back even further, we certainly could.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Councilman Newman,
Yeah.
any other questions?
You took mine.
Okay. Councilor Moran, any questions?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. Can move on.
Great, thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, that Jim Paquin is here. He's our Director of Building Inspection Services. They do bring in some pretty good revenue. The major services that they provide, they administer and enforce Connecticut State Building Code and its amendments, provide staff support to the Historic District Commission, provide staff support to the Blight Review Committee. I would also add that he acts as an advisor to my office on so many things, as well as Megan Massa, our grants coordinator in regards to construction projects and building. Jim always volunteers to go out and assist as we move through any sort of building projects or anything that I really need his advice on. So he helps out with so much. Our statutory requirement, building code compliance is required and enforceable under Connecticut General Statute. Okay, the budget I propose for them is $161,341. That is a $5,208 increase compared to last year. The adjustment reflects a rise in approved payroll and the accounts for negotiated salary raises, as well as additional raises allocated to non-union staff members. Also, service contracts increased by $800, which is attributed to contractual obligations.
What page is this in the big budget book?
I don't have it. I don't believe you have it in the big, yes, we do, 129 to 132, I'm sorry.
This is the only department for Mr. Paquin.
Yeah, it's an easy one, yeah.
They'll open up to questions.
Yep. Go ahead.
Do you want a minute?
If anybody else is coming. Cool.
Counselor Moran, any questions on the building department?
No, thanks.
Okay. Okay, I don't have any questions either. Put spout line on where you usually end up, so. Good. Yeah. Planning and development and
Now Public Works.
go on public works.
Scott, go. Okay. All right, I'll start with that. Director Lappin is here. He just stepped out for a second. So, as you know, our Public Works Department has two divisions, both very fairly large, parks and facilities and streets and roads. I would note that there's been some major leadership and we're attempting some culture changes in the Department of Public Works. Since I've been here, one of the consistent sayings out of Public Works is we don't do it that way, or that's not how we do things around here, or we've always done it this way. And we've saw our Assistant Public Works Director leave to another town, and we saw our Highway Supervisor retire, and we've replaced them. And it's been incredibly positive early on. We've seen some savings there as well. In regards to that, a lot of it is software, different things that we're already paying for. PubWorks is one of the software packages that we have that we're going to start utilizing much more. We're not going to do things from memory anymore. We're going to do things more professionally and more scientifically moving forward, and it should make the job a little bit easier for everybody instead of just trying to do everything out of memory. DPW is in your budget book, pages 183 to 186, and for the parks, and pages 192 to 195 for the streets. And so Director Lappin's here now. So we got the proposed budget for the entirety of DPW I have at $3,735,004. That's an increase of $11,234. So when you look at a $3 million, almost close to $4 million budget, only going up $11,000. That's a pretty best effort just to remain flat considering everything. The payroll budget line increased by about $30,000. Equipment rentals increased by about $5,000, and the communications budget up about $2,500. However, we were able to see significant savings in salt, fuel and oil, and contractual services to help lower that budget. So I thank the director for bringing in an almost flat budget. Major services, as you know, 133.4 miles of local roads. We maintain town buildings, parks, and 4 cemeteries. Public Works is committing to adhering to a strict budget, and they did a good job. There's some performance data in there as well. And so I would say we're open for any questions for Director Lappin if you have any regarding his budget.
Thank you. Counselor Yuchek, you,
I think so. Is the 30,000, there was a staff that you wanted to try and move from one over to a truck driver? Is that,
That's in there.
that's not this though, not the 30,000?
No, it's in there. That's a part of the budget. I'm sorry.
Yeah, all right, I was just confused because on page 37, I didn't know if that 30,000 was asked to move over to,
I believe it is.
that's the amount.
Yeah, there's 2 things in there, right? A part-time.
Yeah, not the entire amount. It was roughly $8,000 to move truck drivers.
Okay, that's not bad, I didn't think it was 8,000, okay, I mean 30,000.
Right.
So 8,000.
any other questions?
I'm not sure. You can ask somebody else if I.
Okay,
I just have a couple of quick,
okay, yeah, I'll go Counselor Beatty, and I see Counselor Moran has his hand raised, so.
I just wanted to check on, so typically, the last couple of items where you have like catch basins cleaned and repaired and miles of roadway swept, I'm assuming you're on some kind of like a cycle, and is that sort of like a typical of what you shoot for every year?
Typically what drives where we sweep and the catch basins we clean are the roads that are being resurfaced, things
Okay,
like that. And then we do extras on top of it. Problem areas,
so these are targeted resurfaced roads,
yes.
okay. Go ahead and let Chris
Okay,
comment, and if I think of something, I'll let you know.
thank you. Counselor Moran?
Thanks. Not a question, just more of a comment. Obviously DPW is a pretty big portion of the town budget. And so I just want to thank Brian and Director Lappin for trying to keep working hard to keep the budget increases pretty minimal in this department. So nice job. Thank you for that.
I agree, it's good that it's, like you said, Brian, that's fine. Any other questions for counselors? Just on.
Parks and streets, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
or I guess the whole department, it's all
whole
one
thing.
section of the.
All right.
Any questions?
Because I just had
Yeah.
a question. Okay.
Yeah, everyone else is waiting, yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty flat. It's really great budget for your department, but on page 179 in the budget book, the parks, like total parks facility, it went up 17,000. What is that we go to?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Page 179,
Yep.
the total parks and facilities, up $17,273. It's only 1.1%, but I just didn't know what that went to.
Hold on, let me get to 179, you said, right?
Yes.
And that is this.
It's the just the third one down. That's just.
Parks and I'm gonna assume that's payroll, but I can't see without pulling out the line by line. You had
Yes.
payroll?
It was payroll. Payroll actually went up 24,137, but then there were reductions in our fuel and oil
Okay,
to offset it. So,
alright. I know it's a very small amount, I was just wondering, but. Any other questions? Alex, do you have one? Sorry, okay.
Do you think that this budget is sufficient for everything? Cause I know it seems like every year you guys take on another task or constantly adding. I just didn't know if you. Board of Ed gets a wish list, I don't know if you have one. You know, like walking around town, I see some things that might need, that maybe we can get a donation for, or.
I'm not good at granting wishes.
I know. But for example, like the ball fields at Cross, you know, you look at those dugouts and the interior of them are fine, but you know, as a carpenter looking at that, it's like, man, those could definitely beyond replacing
We
a
have to-
board or,
I remember that.
you know,
When I got here, there was no schedule for the ball fields, all the sporting fields and when to replace them and such. Working with DPW, the recreation board and Bruce Watt, they came up with a schedule. How many years out you think it is, Scott? 20 years out or?
Yeah, we're doing, I think it's every other year
Yep.
we're doing ball field.
And you can see the softball field at the middle schools this year. New infield, some new fencing. They also have a scoreboard, I believe, that we had given them through ARPA. Is that right, Colin? Didn't we get the scoreboard for softball? So you'll
Yes,
see
we
each
did.
year, we're gonna pick off a field. We can budget for it rather than doing it haphazardly and plan out.
yeah. no,
It could change. This was, the girls softball this year was based on Director Lappin and Dr. Willett looking at this, the athletic director, and looking at the danger and the difference in height from infield to outfield.
No, that's great.
And when did you implement that program? Just last year?
Yeah, I mean, 6 months ago or so.
6 months ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay,
Yep.
24, 25.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. The scoreboard is actually going in within the next few weeks. We've gone out and marked the areas for call before you dig.
Are you done, Commissioner?
Yeah,
So he piqued my interest in something. So if there were groups that did want to contribute to improvements, is that something they would approach you about, Brian?
What do you mean, like how the who helped us with Lions Field? Was it the,
It was our guys who did it, but Lions contributed.
yeah, is that what you mean? Like,
That kind of thing, right? Yeah.
yeah, that would go through my office.
Okay. So if there are people that are interested in
I would love that.
have them contact you.
Yes.
Okay, so just out there in the ether. And for when you say Public Works is building a new parks and facilities office, cold storage building, pole building has been constructed at the Highway Division facility. Are the engineering fees and the other construction costs of that included in your budget?
Yes,
Okay.
it's all.
So
part
that's
of-
part of your budget. It's not a separate part of like the capital improvements budget.
Right.
So
We have it's a different engineering budget. Like I believe we budgeted in, when we paid for the Parks Garage, we budgeted in engineering fees.
Okay, so that's in the parks and
In the price of that.
in the price of
yes.
that building.
Which was
Okay.
out of ARPA,
was ARPA.
Okay,
it was not in this budget.
okay. Thank you.
Just have one question. So we're the only real staffing change here, it's not even an increase in headcount, but we're moving laborer position to a truck driver position. Could you just kind of expand a little bit on why
Sure.
I'm requesting that?
We don't have any truck drivers in the Parks and Facilities Division. We have all laborers and we have a working leader, and then we have the Dennis Carr, who is our Public Works supervisor for the parks. CDL laws have changed. If you drive a vehicle with a trailer on it that's over 10,000 pounds and the vehicle is over such and such, we have to pay them to drive the CDL vehicle. Laborers have a CDL, but it qualifies them as being a truck driver at that point. So we figure instead of constantly, saying, all right, for 3 hours, we're gonna pay this guy to drive a truck, we're gonna drive, if we have one designated truck driver down there, it will make it a lot easier for us. Especially if they have a Class A license, because we have to move our mini excavator up to the cemeteries for excavation of the graves, things of that nature. It also gives some room for advancement. What happens is everybody sees that you have truck drivers, you have equipment operators in the highway, and they're leaving parks going to the highway just for that opportunity to advance. So we figure if we got one position in there, it would at least, open their eyes to that.
Okay. Thank you, no, that makes sense, appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other questions upon Department of Public Works?
Can I add a couple things?
Sure.
The Little League, as merely to your point, has money that they raise and spend. Our soccer clubs also have money that they raise and spend. And that's often due to what helps pay for the infrastructure of our athletic fields. They work with Bruce Watt and again, our recreation division. So there's different revenue streams that we come in to help pay for all that also. I want to introduce Chris Kelly. You want to stand up, Chris, for a second? Chris is our new assistant director at DPW, comes with a UConn degree in something related, what is it again? Landscape maintenance or something?
Just, experience in the past, but no UConn experience there. It's an English degree, honestly.
Oh, okay, all right, I thought it was, okay, never mind, it's an English degree, perfect. And Dave Drost is stand up, Dave, is in charge of our highway supervisor. He's been here a long time, knows the business, was really working hard to attain that promotion, and I thank both of them for their efforts.
Thank you both for coming.
Yeah.
One last call for questions. Councilor Moran, are you good?
I'm good.
All right, thank you, everyone, for exploring the conversation.
Thank you.
We have one more department to cover tonight.
All right, refuse and recycling, garbage. This is handled largely by Mike Wilkinson out of Human Resources in the Town Manager's Office. The town provides, as you know, curbside residential pickup and disposal of all our household trash, recycled items, and bulky waste. Additionally, town participates in a regional hazardous waste program, which provides residents with opportunities to dispose of household hazardous materials during the spring and summer and fall months. We also run an electronics recycling event, shredding event, on top of the hazardous materials as well, but that's paid for throughout alternative means, not included in the part of this budget. The overall budget for refuse is flat. We took a big hit last year, but the second year is flat at $1,332,027. So no increase. And that includes the one complimentary bulky waste collection, which we have included in our capital plan. Mike Wilkinson's here for any questions.
We'll open it up to questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So previously, we had seen that the cost of, that the monies that might be available for recycling, right? That we had, that was a positive income stream at some point in time. What is the status of recycling as far as costs versus reimbursement for more valuable things like aluminum and things like that?
Go ahead, Mike.
So yeah, we a while back we were getting paid for recycling, but as you may know, there was a worldwide shift in recycling. China stopped taking a lot of recycling, so that bottomed out the market. So we went from getting $25 a ton down to 10 to 0. Now we have to pay to get rid of our recycling. So that's really where the market is right now. So we're not getting any revenue for it. It's obviously cheaper to do it than our trash, but that's kind of where we are as far as our recycling. It's about $25, about $35 less than what it costs to dispose of our trash currently.
Can you provide do you know offhand the numbers per ton? It's per ton, right? For trash versus recycling?
I think trash is like 110, and I want to say recycling is it's either 75 or around 75 or 80. I'd have to get the exact number, but it's about.
Order of magnitude is fine, thank you. What strategies would benefit us to try to bring some of this expense down? As far, is there educationally, is there anything that we can do, or are there strategies that we can take that you know of to try to get this expense reduced?
Well, if you look at the trajectory of what we've done with recycling and trash over the years, it's a pretty good story. Before we went to single stream, things like that, our budget was pretty high. We got our budget down to where it was or below what it was about 12 years ago, which is pretty remarkable. But with the change in recycling, as I mentioned, and we talked about this last year, just so you know, we signed a new 5-year agreement with our vendor last year. So, and the rate increases hit the first year. That's why we're flat, just to be clear on why we're flat. The second year, all our fees are the same. But education's obviously important, getting the word out to try to recycle as much as you can. But we're at the point where we don't have a lot of room to make huge changes. We've done single stream. We've switched to biweekly recycling over the years. We've tried everything to kind of reduce our costs, but we're in a period where it's kind of flattened out. So, but obviously education is important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from counselors? Counselor Shay?
Yeah, so, I'm looking at the actuals compared to budget for the past 2 years, and we're typically below budget on, the past couple of years, by about $150,000, and if I annualize the current year's actuals, we're pretty much in the same boat, where we're gonna be about $150,000 less. I personally, I think we don't do enough for our residents as far as trash removal and recycling pickup, because we keep taking this away over the past several years, down to one bulky waste pickup. So if we do have this extra amount in our budget, is there any chance we could potentially increase a second bulky waste collection? And how much does that typically cost us a year?
I'm not seeing what you're saying.
No, I think we went over budget.
We went over budget.
That's not
The
the,
actual,
Did I do it
actual is the
exactly?
main.
No, the actuals, I'm sorry, I'm looking at 24 compared to 25.
Yeah.
But if I annualize 25, if I did that correctly, it comes out to, I'm sure. Being erased here. Comes out to about 150,000 less than what we have budgeted for the current year. I'm looking at my columns correctly. So, do you agree, Mike? Are we?
Yeah, so
Slightly
Yeah.
below budget this year?
no, generally we don't usually come in under budget. It all depends on, obviously these are estimates of what we think we're going to end the year with our tonnages. So it really all depends on how much people throw out the rest of the year. But we're generally not under budget. It costs about between $20,000 to $30,000 for a bulky waste pickup. So and again,
When is that?
October.
So we've already had that.
We've already had it for this year, yeah. It's, but we've programmed it again for October using capital funds. So it's not in the operating budget for next year. It's a capital item.
I wanted it consistent, so we put it into
In the capital?
yeah, because remember I was getting, maybe you weren't here, I was getting parlayed around and pulled and it's too important. You start pulling that, we pull that budget, Lappin's picking up couches
Right.
on all the dead ends and everywhere else, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why going down to one was a concern for me when we
Yep.
did it.
You can start.
I know the last bulky waste pickup, if you drove around, people had a ton of stuff. It took days to find and pick all that up.
Mhm.
So to me, it would be beneficial to add another one. If we could get it in the budget.
Well, people can, it's really cheap to call them and have them come do it. Mike, what's a pickup cost, like say for average?
It is really cheap. It's only $34 if you wanted to pick up 4 reasonably sized items. So say you had a couch, a table, a couple end chairs, that would only cost $34, which if you had a private company come, just for them to show up, it'd be $100. So it's a really good deal. They're definitely not making money on that, but that's the cost if a resident wants to pay for it themselves, and that's a pretty good deal. We actually had a resident we talked to today in our office who was saying how it's such a good deal.
It is a good deal, but it's still, a lot of the mentality is, why should I, spend $34 when I can throw it on the side of the road for free? So if you can avoid that by doing an extra bulky waste pickup, I think.
If you wanna budget it, we can,
Yeah, it just seemed like we were low, it didn't seem like we were gonna hit our budget number this year, and I was just wondering if, we've gotten more efficient, if people have less.
I'll be surprised when the tonnage is under.
Yeah, okay. Just something to keep an eye on.
I agree.
Counselor Newman?
Yeah, I just my own, I think the town does a great job with the bulk pickup. I actually think I was surprised moving back here, and that was a thing. Like when I grew up, you loaded your own truck and you brought it to Stafford and they paid you for it.
Oh, it's
So,
Stafford?
yeah, I don't really know how you can accumulate so much stuff in 1 year unless you're a picker, which is cool. Because people will go through and pick at those piles, but I think one is great.
Well, when I first
You know?
moved here, it was free all year.
Yeah.
It was call them ahead of time and they, for your day of garbage pickup. And they came, whatever month that was.
Yeah.
And then we cut it down to 2, 3 or 2, and now we're down to 1.
Yeah.
So it's.
So a lot of the
definitely
landfill capacity was eliminated, right? So part of the reason for that was that many years ago, I know I'm aging you prematurely, but that many years ago, there was much more landfill capacity. And those landfills have been closing, so it's becoming more and more and more expensive to just throw stuff away. Cause it has to go farther and it has to, the remaining facilities can charge more, so. And I agree with you, I mean, stuff that
Yeah, I think we're spoiled.
we have that's like metal or valuable,
Yeah.
if we put it out, it
Gone.
disappears.
Gone.
It disappears,
There are a lot
it's
A lot
like,
of pickers out there.
yeah, it's really weird,
You might be a popular guy now, Joe, because the town loves those bulk pickups.
yeah.
It's a good one.
I mean, I agree with you, I think we need a bulky waste, we did try to
Oh,
go
yeah,
without
sure.
it once, and we ended up with a lot of people. And it bugs me, because I think you should be responsible for your own refuse, and you should
Correct.
you should not dump it on somebody else's property,
Yeah.
that's bogus, but when we tried to get away from it, and like we sold like little stickers or something for a little while you could buy,
Free me.
put a sticker on it, and it just didn't work, so you ended up with couches at the end of cul-de-sacs. So,
Just a question, if you do something like that, like if there's a giant pile of waste, that would end up becoming blight, right?
What do you mean?
Like when,
If someone dumps something on somebody else's property and they just leave it there,
People were leaving trash everywhere. or at
it
the end
wouldn't
of their-
become blight because, Jim, our blight officer would tell us, and Scott's people are great about picking, that stuff up anyways. It's an unfortunate outcome. It's something I dealt with in Hartford 100 times worse than this. So I do value the bulk pickup, but yes, it's we try to get to it when we can. It pops up on Facebook. These two new guys are watching it. And we get to it pretty quick.
Okay.
Everything that's popped up in the last couple of weeks, a chair here or there, these guys are on it before I can say, hey, pick it up.
In any case, not good.
Yeah, right, but no, I think you guys do a great job. Yeah. More-
I mean, I think at some point, it's that you're violating like it's like a littering.
I'm sure,
Just
yeah.
illegal disposal of refuse or whatever, but it's a fine. The $34 to pick up, the items, you said 4 items?
Yep.
Like, that's actually really good,
Yep.
like, that's.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good price.
Yeah, definitely lose money on that. It's
Yeah.
a really good deal.
I think, we could publicize that more, that would be great.
Yeah, or get paid to throw out your trash. Publicize that too. Stafford. So
Get paid to throw out your trash?
Oh, yeah,
Stafford pays you to throw out your trash?
depending on what it is. Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace.
The marketplace.
I see Council Moran has his hand raised.
Yeah, just one, I agree with Alex. When I moved to Tolland, I thought it was great that we had even one bulky waste pickup. Just a question though, with respect to whether we would ever need to add another one, are we having any problem where we're finding regularly like larger items being disposed where they're not supposed to, or how is the one a year seem to be working out?
Chris, what do you define as a problem? I see it on Facebook and it annoys me, so that's a problem for me. But we monitor it, and pick it up as best as possible. I don't wanna flirt with it becoming a bigger problem by getting rid of the bulky waste. So
No,
I
I don't either.
think we're in a good spot with the cheap pickup all year round and then one freebie, free for the residents, but we pay for it here. I think it's a pretty good spot that we're in.
Yeah, I would agree.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments up on refuse? All right. I think with that, that concludes our substance in the agenda for tonight. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:17. Second. Second. All right. I guess we have to do a roll call vote. So Councilor Moran?
Aye.
Councilor Noonan? Aye. Councilor Yudichak?
Aye.
Councilor Shay?
Aye.
Councilor Hebe?
Aye,
I'm an aye as well. We're adjourned.
thank you.